Who's running that camera? Nobody? Aye. Okay, just real quick. This is a way of diagramming the causes and events that lead up to an aircraft accident. This is the crash, just like we talked about. This event right here, very important. We call it the proximate event. This is the trigger. Without that, the rest of the accident sequence can't culminate. It's almost always associated with pilots. I already told you, but I'll say it again. Pilot does something inappropriate that triggers the crash, or fails to do something that should have stopped the crash, and the accident happens anyway. All this stuff back here is part of our investigation, turning unknowns into knowns. And as we work forward, ultimately, we find the proximate event, again almost always associated with pilots, the crash. So that's the logic we use. We're kind of like historians. How many of you folks like history? Okay, you're in the military, you better love history. Okay? Otherwise we make the same mistakes. But investigation is kind of like the practice of history in that we start from today and work backwards through time to figure out how we got here and hopefully learn things that will help us stop the next crash. So we're like historians in a lot of ways. I'll give you a quick example. Anybody recognize what's going on there, or the aircraft in the middle particularly? What is it?
That's B-70 Valkyrie.
Amen. Okay.
He should get an A for that one, because that's an old plane.
That is. Actually, this accident happened 50 years ago this June. They're out at Edwards Air Force Base. The Valkyrie was a really neat, new technology aircraft, Mach 2.5. It had all kinds of gee-whiz stuff that was way ahead of its time. Unfortunately, it was very, very expensive. And so the program got shut down really before they'd even gotten these airplanes finished. And they were transferred temporarily over to NASA to do aerodynamic research and high-speed flight research and all kinds of various other things, still wearing the Air Force markings. Now what this picture is a lot of times the folks that make things on airplanes want to advertise that here's our airplanes we put stuff on. Notice they're all different kinds of airplanes, and they're all flying very close to each other. We start getting into some hazard areas. And this aircraft out here is going to do something unusual. This happened to be the senior X-15 pilot out at Edwards Air Force Base, X-15, the airplane. But he's in this aircraft, and he gets a little bit too close to the right wing. Partly because the photo director wanted all the airplanes together, and he couldn't get everybody in the picture, so he kept telling everybody, get close, get close, get close. That's what it looked like in trail. Look at the distance here. The other thing is we didn't understand the wake turbulence issues the XB-70 had. That's a depiction of what occurred. Joe Walker got a little too close to that wing, trail, flips him upside down over, takes off a vertical fin, takes off the other vertical fin and the outboard wing, and we end up with that. Now if I put this whole multilinear event sequence together, the crash is about to happen. We can't stop it. Proximate event would have been Joe Walker accepting that direction to close up too tight. That's how you figure out what it is, and just a sequence of events. The XB-70 actually did fly briefly. Departed controlled flight, because there's photo shoots going on. They got plenty of pictures of it on the way down. The aircraft commander did manage to punch out in the capsule at the head of the thing. The co-pilot didn't. We lost Joe Walker, we lost the F-104, we lost the co-pilot on this aircraft, and a lot of people got in trouble because what they didn't have was approval to do that photo shoot beyond the local level. Because of the expense of this aircraft and the significance of it, they should have actually had Pentagon level approval to do this. Nobody thought, hey, let's go up the chain and make sure this is okay. The safety officer at Edwards Air Force Base, when do you think he found out that this airplane had crashed? Right after it. He didn't have any opportunity to give his input as to whether this was a dumb idea or not. And when you put the whole thing together, you got a pretty good accident sequence out of it. This is some of the stuff that's just right straight out of your packet. This is all the stuff you need to do in a field investigation. And our main purpose is preservation of evidence. If you didn't understand that part, write it down. We do it by photos, we do it by diagrams, we do it by looking. And does anybody know what the most important tool you can bring to the scene of an accident is?
Eyewitnesses.
Say again?
Eyewitnesses.
Say again?
Your brain.
Shh, you guys, good kids. Anybody? What's your brain?
Yay.
Did you say that?
You were,
Yeah.
Say it out!
he was too
Proud!
shy.
Yeah, it's your brain. That's the most important tool. And that's what you gotta use when you go out and do these investigations. And tomorrow, Colonel Peoples is gonna have you look at some of our folks do what you're gonna do the next 3 days. But your brain is the most important part of the whole thing. Now the last thing, before I shut up, quick safety briefing. Each member of each team is responsible for everybody else in the team. Everybody copy that.
Yes, sir.
Keep an eye on each other. You see something that doesn't look good, time out. We'll stop, get your monitor, something's wrong, we'll fix it. If there's something moving, please don't pick it up. It's probably too cold right now, or gonna be too cold right now for any of the more nasty things that could be moving, but still don't pick it up. We got pack rats out there like you wouldn't believe. But you want to keep in mind where you are. You got sharp stuff, you got plants that have sharp stuff, wear gloves. Adolfo, I'd like them in gloves. I think we got enough. And I'll stop there and ask if anybody has any questions. That's a thumbnail sketch of what the folks get in the full term of investigation. Distilled down. Questions? Oh, questions?
Ask questions, guys.
Yeah.
Actually, tell them about the crash of the photo shoot here at Prescott Valley at Prescott Airport a few years ago that shut down our lab. Yeah, because that was another.
2006, we're coming up on the anniversary of that thing too. I knew 3 of the people in the Piper Cheyenne. They didn't really have a mid-air collision. How many of you know what a MiG-21 is? Okay, it's basically an engine with some stubby little wings strapped on it, designed to do one thing: go fast and shoot down RB-52s before they get into Russian airspace. Doesn't maneuver very well. It's kind of a tank, and it's got all kinds of unusual features, but man, it goes fast. Piper Cheyenne. The Cheyenne 3 has a big T-tail. It's a turboprop airplane, pretty good sized airplane. Week after the air show in 2006, they're up doing a photo op, or a photo shoot, for the public relations for the next air show the coming year, which never happened. The MiG had a gear problem. Asked the pilot of the Cheyenne, who unfortunately happened to be one of my former students, to underfly him and take a look. I can't tell you what Billy was thinking, but he tried it. He wasn't used to the T-tail on that airplane, and to get that MiG slow enough so the Cheyenne could get underneath them, they've got their flaps out and they got that airplane at a very steep attitude, kind of hanging on the thrust, which means what's coming out the back end of that engine? Tremendous amount of jet wash. And he managed to stick the left side of his horizontal stabilizer into the jet wash, tore the tail off, flat spin, inverted, killed all 5 of them, but they never actually touched the MiG. It's not a mid-air collision. It's a different sort of thing. MiG got back to base. The 5 folks in the Cheyenne didn't. Now, imagine having to investigate that. Unsuppressed fire for about 8 hours, so most of what you got's burned up. You did have the tail a quarter mile away. no fire on it. And it was pretty clear that something had taken it and torn it violently off toward the right. And that's the effect of the jet washer to stick the left horizontal in it. Sad case. I've had unfortunate opportunity to work a few accidents where I knew the people. 12 years ago, I had the misfortune to have to go out and investigate two good friends who did have a mid-air collision practicing for an air show. So, anyway.
It's a good point. And that photo shoot was not planned. It was spontaneous. The MiG was taken off, and the guys were there and said, "Hey, it'd be great to take a picture of the MiG taken off." And I knew 4 of the guys, and they literally said, "Hey, we're going for a ride. You want to go for a ride? Yeah, it'd be great to go for a ride." They jumped in, but unfortunately the pilot, like he said, was not trained in close formation flying with a military aircraft and did not know some of the threats. And that was there's a monument in Prescott there for all 5 of the people, and it was a horrible, horrible situation. And that's why we hadn't had an air show in what, 4 years? How long you said?
We haven't had a real air show in 10.
Yeah, it's
Anybody got relatives that are lawyers? Blame the lawyers for this one.
it's still ongoing, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, well, they finally did settle it out
Okay, they
just last year, so maybe we'll go back to having air shows, but one of the plaintiffs retained an attorney who had some aviation experience. The first thing he did was sequester any money donated to the air show fund.